What's up and welcome back to the Kinda Funny Screencast. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes and I'm joined by the sad boy himself, Barrett Courtney.
What has happened to you, Tim?
Are you talking about the mustache? It's for Top Gun. It's
but
for Top Gun.
I was also quoting Benny Safdie, who I completely forgot was in the show.
Exactly. And rounding out our group today is the one and only Saige Ryan from Pixel Circus. Saige, how you doing?
Hi, friends. I'm doing very well. These elf ear headphones are the only headphones I could find. This isn't just my I'm quirky kind of morning. This is just where we're at today.
This is where we're at. Sage, there's something so sage about this moment, though. You have to admit that this is just right.
I accept that.
Of course, this is the Kind of Funny screencast where each and every week we get together to talk about the latest in TV, movies, and trailers. We will be doing weekly reactions to the Obi Wan Kenobi series. Today, we're talking about episodes 1 and 2. And then for the next couple weeks, we're going to be doing one by one, episode by episode, with Anthony Carboni as well. He could not be here today because he is at Star Wars Celebration. And last week he lied to me. I asked him, are you going to be near Ewan? Are you going to be near Hayden? He's like, they don't let me near him. And then what happens? Barrett, roll the clip.
Away from people being able to see this, is there anything you want the fans to know or any last thing you want to say to them before we get to see this series tonight?
This is where the fun begins.
I love the world that we live in, that not only is that a thing that makes a crowd erupt in rapturous applause, but also that Carboni was the maestro behind it all. It's just such proud of our boy.
We're all very proud of our boy. I have loved all of the clips going around. There was also a clip of some fans of the audience yelling "Spider Boys."
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you'll love to see a shout to Rudio and them. But this is Kind of Funny Screencast. I already went through all that stuff. It is one of our various entertainment shows here on Kind of Funny. The other one being In Review, where we rank, review, and recap different movie franchises. This week, for the very first time, I dived into Top Gun. I had never seen the original, and now I have. And since then, I've seen Top Gun Maverick twice. And I'm telling everyone, there's a fair warning that I keep having to give to everyone. There is you before you've seen Top Gun Maverick, and then there's the you after. It is a religious experience. This is now my entire personality. I apologize in advance, but I do not apologize for how amazing Top Gun Maverick is. Go watch this weekend if you want to change your life. But we'll talk about that on In Review that's happening later. You can find that on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com. You'd also get all of these shows on your favorite podcast service by searching for Kind of Funny Screencast, Kind of Funny In Review. Honestly, just type Kind of Funny, and anything that you're interested in, just hit subscribe. That'll help us out a lot. If you have some dollars to toss our way to support us even more, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like our Patreon producers, Anonymous, Molecule, and Fargo Brady have done. They get the show ad-free. And speaking of ads, we're brought to you by MeUndies, Chime, and Credit Karma, but I'll talk about all of that later. Let's get right into it. We've seen episodes 1 and 2 of Obi Wan Kenobi. Saige, what did you think?
It's so hard not to just scream in response to this. I understand that I am in the fresh new Star Wars content high, and I might have some criticism later, but at this time, there is only screaming inside my heart.
I love that. I love that so much. And you know what? Actually, I should have said this at the very top of the show. Barrett and I were talking. We were deciding that for our Star Wars content, from now going forward, it is totally spoiler-filled from the get-go. We're not giving spoiler-free thoughts at all. We're just going all in. And that includes all of the canon lore, all of the cartoons and Rebels and Clone Wars, all that stuff. Like, we're going to have discussion. So just so everybody understands what page we're on here.
Great. Then now that you said that, baby,
let's go, baby! Woo! Barrett, what'd you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same place as Say. It's like, yeah, like there's some things that like made me scratch my head, but overall, like these first 2 episodes, like this story with Obi-Wan post episode 3 with a live action element starring Ewan McGregor is what I've wanted as a fan for the last 17 years, and we finally got that. Yeah, I think it was super incredible. It hit a lot of things that I was expecting to see in the follow-up of where Obi-Wan is 10 years later after the events of episode 3, but then at the same time still being delivered things I did not expect, right? Like, we had an idea of like maybe why he's going on the adventure that he's going to go on from the trailers and stuff, but I never would have predicted that would have connected to baby Leia in any way, shape, or form, and like the way that they are like telling the story, and none of it felt unearned so far. I know there's like the classic Star Wars criticisms of like, oh, everything always has to connect, and that's so boring. With this though, I really think they like kind of earn it, especially with the relationship between Obi and Senator Organa and all of this stuff, and realistically, just like where everybody is at 10 years later. I'm really excited to see what these like next 2 acts are, because we essentially got the first act of this story last night, and I as first acts of Star Wars shows have gone so far, I think this was absolutely incredible. We got the typical, we're on Tatooine, but I think it still delivered like a lot of great moments of sitting with Obi-Wan and sitting with him and where he's at, but also, getting to the point of why he's leaving, why he needs to go out and go do this, and not just from a plot sense, but also from a character sense. I really adored my time last night, and Alyssa was like, that's the most excited I've seen you watching Star Wars in a very long time, like probably since the first time you watched Rebels. And I was like, oh yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, Saige talked about the Star Wars high. I definitely had that as well. Like, I think just from a presentation standpoint, like they really were like, yo, this one's different. Like this one, I mean, they gave us kind of the movie treatment a little bit, even with like the sound cues and stuff with the Lucasfilm, and the credits being the more classic Star Wars credits, and even the like little previously on being like just a epically edited prequel kind of montage. I thought was so well done and so great to like get you in the mood. And I was totally in the mood, and I was the entire time. I can't wait to watch these again. I think they're far from flawless, but I think that when it comes down to it, like my criticisms are very, very low compared to how exciting so much of this is to me. I do think that so far, it's not like they're doing anything that's revolutionary. They're not changing what Star Wars is or means, but they're kind of just delivering what Star Wars can be in a good way to so many people. And yes, it does connect. Everything does connect. If you're expecting it not to, Star Wars probably isn't for you. That's what the franchise is at this point. And I marked out seeing baby Leia, and I thought that she was awesome. I thought that this little kid is such a little shit in the best ways. So and I'm like, this is great. We get to see Leia be a princess. Like, we get to see her getting all putting little outfits and the whimsically music playing. We see Alderaan. I'm like, yo, this is what I would have loved to see from some of the prequel stuff. This feels very much like a sequel to the prequels, and take that for what it is, right? Like, I understand that the prequels made a lot of bad choices in terms of like, okay, R2 was there and C-3PO and Chewbacca, and like the places they go and all of that. But I do feel like this is a modern sequel to those in a way that is feeding into our nostalgia and happiness for the things we liked about them. And it is kind of weird to see Luke and Leia and them feel like prequel characters. You know what I mean? But I kind of dig it.
I love the bait and switch from the trailers, right? Because you see a little bit of Luke in the trailer, and I remember like people were like, they're recasting Luke, oh god. And then we didn't even get any hint of Leia. And when they first introduce her in this episode, and they're like specifically not showing her at first, I was like, they couldn't find a kid. This is just like a cute little tease, but they're not going to show her. And then just how much she is like almost the core of the show so far. I was just like so blown away by it, and like how fucking fantastic the casting is. I can only imagine how hard that is because of just finding child actors in general, but then finding the right child actor to pull off a character who's been beloved for 45 years at this point, and for them to absolutely nail the depiction of not just young Leia compared to like what we've seen her even in like Rebels and like the original trilogy and stuff like that, but also have so much of Padme in there from and not just the prequels, but Padme from the Clone Wars show and stuff, and like her drive, and them actually pointing that out in the show. Where not once but twice it's referred of like, Yeah, she reminds me of someone, right? And I just,
I
it's
cried.
heartbreaking. That scene is heartbreaking when she's
I
like,
straight up cried.
when she's like, you know, like, was your friend another Jedi? And he was like, no, she was a leader. And it's like, God fucking
Come
damn it.
on.
They
I nearly
nail-
died of sadness.
They nail so much of like Leia was never a senator. She's always been a general. And it's, I loved it. I adored it.
It
Saige,
was
go
so
off.
good. Leia's my favorite character. Leia's one of those like extremely impactful, will like genuinely changed my life growing up. The reason I am who I am is growing up with an obsession with Princess Leia. So the amount of pressure that I felt as soon as they started talking about Leia being there, where I was just like, I just balled up in my chest of like, don't mess this up. Please don't mess this up. Please do not mess up a young Leia. And I think that they nailed it. I think that it was incredible. This little girl was spectacular, and they gave her all of the like stubborn drive that you get to see that, like, in my opinion, I would have said only Carrie Fisher could have done. You know what I mean? Like when looking at especially A New Hope, you look at the like absolute just pain in the ass that Leia is at that point, and you can see everything that's happened between now and then. And God, and getting to see Alderaan, getting to actually spend some time on Alderaan was so cool. I think she was incredible, and the whole family was incredible. I loved both of her parents.
Jimmy Smits is a great dad. I just want to say
my
that. Like,
God,
hell yeah,
I'm
Jimmy
so
Smits.
glad. I'm so glad she had good parents.
I think this was something we brought up in the in our in review last week of like how fucked up it is of like, you know, Leia gets off to be like a senator's daughter, and then Luke just gets to be like a farm boy on a sand planet. And I love that they leaned into that of like, you know, you see a little bit of Luke's life, and then, you know, like when we get to Alderaan and you just see like the extravagant life that Leia lives, it's like, oh my God.
I will say they flipped that a little bit too, because when you have Obi-Wan watching over Luke, and you get to this point where he's like, well, my duty is to the boy, you get this like, wait, no, hold on.
Yeah.
We were kind of just talking about how like Leia got the like better deal, and then it was like, actually, that's kind of messed up, Ben.
Yeah.
What do you mean your duty's to the boy?
Because he's
They're
so
twins.
lost. He
Get
is
wrecked.
so lost right now, and I love it. And it's so weird.
I love it.
It was kind of whiplash for me a little bit, and in a good way. I'm not saying this as a criticism of like, we're so used to seeing Ewan McGregor play young, hopeful, funny Obi-Wan, and now it's like we're actually seeing the first time of him not fully being the Obi-Wan that we see in A New Hope, but like more in that like even more lost stage where he is so blinded by, you know, my only duty is to protect this child, this specific child, and how much he is almost failing of, you know, being blinded by that, of, you know, like kind of like telling Benny Safdie of like, hey, sorry, like I'm not the guy you're looking for and stuff like that. Go bury your lightsaber in the Dune Sea, which is something he literally does at the end, where Obi-Wan brings out his buried lightsaber along with Anakin's lightsaber, which was also just very heartbreaking. He's lost right now, and I fucking love it. But it's also weird because it's like I've never seen Ewan McGregor play Lost Obi-Wan, and it's so weird.
And you know, that's what's working really well for me so far is, you know, we knew what to expect from this show, which was essentially more Ewan McGregor. And it's like, great, that's all that I really need. One of our favorite things from the prequels is him being Obi-Wan. But I didn't expect the transition to him becoming Ben to be so well done and so believable. And sure, some of it's like on the nose, but I think it kind of has to be. And I did not expect his force powers to be like kind of an issue for him, and to him not really have access to it. Like that is such a cool thing, and the blindedness of him needing to be there for Luke while he's losing his powers, like it's kind of a really, really interesting, I don't want to say twist, but it's an interesting development in what we know becomes the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, right? And like just going back real quick to Leia, like I loved the casting, thought she was great. And yeah, like Padme is one of my favorite characters. Like I've always really liked her. And episode 3, we talked about it at length a couple weeks ago. Like there's some problems with her character, some major problems. And like they dropped the ball like entirely. And to see the the bridge between Amidala and the Leia we know from A New Hope and all that is so cool, because like even just not just like the direct things, but like her having like a body double and like switching out. I'm like, classic Padme, you know, like that shit's so fun, and like that's the type of reverence I enjoy, where it is character based, and Star Wars has always been about that family stuff. And like, even if you don't know your parents, what is brought down from them to you just through who you are. And I think that they're continuing that in a great way.
They only ever gave us what Luke got from Anakin, and that was kind of always it. They didn't connect Luke to Padme at all. They didn't care about that. And they never tried to really connect Leia to either of them either. I mean, in the prequels, you got to see that like mirror of Padme at least being like kind of a, you know, difficult child in the best way. But this being like also her love for droids too, like the way that she cared for them, the way that she got that from Anakin in a really cool way. I think that was the most care that we've seen them really take with a woman's story in Star Wars yet, to me, when we give them a full backstory. And that meant a lot to me personally.
Yeah, just going back to him, Obi struggling with the Force, of like, that's a concept that was brought up in Jedi Fallen Order of, I forget her name, but the Jedi who essentially like recruits Cal to like help build up a new order and stuff. Like, she cut herself off from the Force after fear of, you know, being pulled too much to the dark side, where it's like Obi-Wan, it's just like literally just a survival instinct of just like, you can't be a part of the Force anymore. And the fact that the first time we assume he has used the Force in 10 years was to save Anakin Skywalker's daughter just fucking ripped my heart out. And, you know, there's a lot of things, a lot of very specific like lore things I want to talk about and kind of dive into that are really interesting, and just like interesting follow-ups and interesting developments on like where the show could go. The first one, of course, because this was something that we were wondering in the trailers of like, is Obi assuming that Anakin's been dead the entire time? And the third sister, Reva, like telling him of like, Lord Vader will be pleased, and his reaction that she can feel through the Force, assuming, where she's like, oh, you didn't know, and like how that fucks him up from that moment to credits was really, really heartbreaking. And like being next to the child that, you know, of this Sith Lord, like realizing that he's still alive, and then cutting over to Vader waking up in his little tank and stuff like that. Like, it's just, what a gut punch in a very cool way. And I love that they even tease it a little bit when he's talking to Owen, who is Joel Edgerton, coming back to play a younger Uncle Owen, who I just want to say, you know, nails the Luke yell, where he's calling out Luke, and like it very much sounds like the original Uncle Owen from A New Hope. And I was like, good job, Joel Edgerton. You're like, you're aging into this role. One thing. Like, yeah, you did your thing. But I love just like the quick call out where he's like you trained his father, and you know, like, you know, Anakin's dead. Like, my brother-in-law is dead and stuff like that. And I love that kind of like, oh, they have no idea what the reality is going on in the galaxy right now, and who's actually leading these Inquisitors, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor's performance when he finds out about Anakin is one of the best acted moments in Star Wars thus far. And I'm going to die on that hill. But that moment, and that like continued, very prolonged, exhaustingly long moment of him processing it with Leia in the background just being like, what is it? Because she's just a kid, and there's no way to possibly explain this to her. And she is deeply involved in this in ways that she won't understand for another 10 years, approximately, was just heartbreaking. I feel like Ewan McGregor showed up for his Bryan Cranston Breaking Bad moment.
Oh, yeah.
In the best way.
Hell
in
yeah.
his, like, end of Breaking Bad, last 2 seasons of just, like, a broken man. Oh, my God. Ewan.
So we have more to say, but before we do that, let me tell you about our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. I love MeUndies from head to toe, all over my body. If you don't believe me, of course, right now, I'm wearing the MeUndies shirt. You can tell by the little tag going on right there, right? Got the MeUndies lounge shorts going on. Of course, I got the undies, and then boom, MeUndies socks, baby. That's how we do out here at Kinda Funny. I love being soft head to toe in the micro-modal fabric. You already know all about that, but if you don't, let's face it, summer's sweaty, but your butt doesn't have to be. With MeUndies light and breathable micro-modal fabric, you can stay comfy and cool all summer long. They have super fun seasonal prints and tons of styles to choose from, but if you just like classic black, that's totally cool too. They got a bunch of just bold colors for you to go for. They have super fun seasonal prints, tons of styles, and sizes extra small to 4XL, so you can bring the beach to your butt without ever leaving your living room. MeUndies has a great offer for all of you first-time purchasers. You can get 15% off if you sign up for their free-to-join membership. You can apply that 15% off to their already discounted membership prices. To get 15% off your first order and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/kindafunny. That's MeUndies.com/kindafunny. Tell them Tim Getty sent you. Shout out to Chime for sponsoring this episode. No one likes waiting on a paycheck, especially when you've got bills due. Good thing there's Chime. Now you can get your paycheck up to 2 days early without direct deposit. That's up to 2 more days to save, pay bills, and generally just feel good about your money situation. But Chime is about more than just getting paid early. It's also an award-winning mobile app, checking account, debit card, and optional savings account. So what are you waiting for? Hopefully not your paycheck. Get started with Chime today. Applying for a free account takes less than 2 minutes. Get started at chime.com/KFgames. That's CHIME.com/KFgames. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank NA. Members FDIC. Early access to direct deposit funds depends on payer. Get started at chime.com/KFgames. Shout out to Credit Karma for sponsoring this episode. Want a new credit card but not sure how to choose? You don't need to apply for the first offer that you see in the mail. Credit Karma can help you zero in on the right option for you and apply with more confidence. I love Credit Karma. I've been using it for years to check my credit profile, make sure everything is good and on the up and up. Credit Karma uses your credit profile to show you offers that are tailored to your financial situation. Credit Karma partners with a wide range of card issuers, so you can be sure that you're exploring all sorts of options. Best of all, Credit Karma uses your credit data to show you your chances of approval before you even apply, helping you apply with more confidence. Comparing cards on Credit Karma is 100% free and most importantly, will not affect your credit score. That is huge. Credit Karma, create your own karma. Ready to find the right card for you? Head to Credit Karma and check out your personalized mix of offers today. That's creditkarma.com or hit up the Credit Karma app to find the right card for you. That's creditkarma.com. Yeah, I love that scene as well. I do think that Reva, is that her name?
Oh, Reva's so good.
Like, I love the Jedi parkour, the extended Jedi parkour scene.
It's very funny.
It's so unnecessary, but it's so cool.
The thing is, I legitimately, I thought it was cool. Like, I
It's
really
so
liked
badass.
it, and it was awesome. But I thought it was very silly that after all of it, you see how far she is from where her goal was, and you're like, what was all that for?
I know,
You're so far away from your target.
That was one of my my 2 criticisms of these first 2 episodes was that where she's like doing all this cool shit to like rush over to this fight to like show up to the fight way too late, and then and I think that was not really on like, I don't know. It was a weird choice, I think, of storytelling to like kind of pace it out that way. And then the one thing from the ending of the first episode, just like as an editor, like I thought it was like a weird choice of the way they kind of kept cutting back from Obi Wan, bringing up the lightsabers that he'd buried. Back and forth from that to baby Leia hanging out with Flea of all people, and stuff like that. Because like almost every shot that they cut to was like, okay, this feels like the final shot or whatever. Oh no, we're still going. Oh, this is the final. Oh, okay. It was like those were the really only 2 real criticisms I had of the first 2 episodes, because everything else I want to talk about is just like cool dumb Star Wars shit.
Her parkour, there was only one moment that I went, Okay. And it was the front flip.
Yeah.
There was just a front flip that it was just like, it felt like you could almost see the wires when she did it. And like, look, I don't mind it. I'm happy to justify it in my brain. That was the only moment because I was like, hell yeah, this parkour is incredible. And I was so in it. I was so hyped. And I was like, oh my God, the way she's jumping off buildings, the way that she like leapt across one of them. And it was very like animalistic and like going for your hands first was so cool. And I am able to justify all of that by they have set up a character that is excessive in her rage and is blinded by it in a lot of ways. So I'm like, of course she's late to the fight because she's doing angry parkour.
To the point the other Inquisitors are like, chill, dog.
Just
like,
chill, dude.
Chill.
And that to me, I think is something, there are two things that I'm not totally loving so far about the show. One of them is Reva, and one of them is the kidnapping scene and Flea and all that stuff. I thought that was like the worst part of the show, like by far. Like I felt like it just didn't feel up to the level of quality that the rest was. But the Reva stuff I'm interested in because I just think that I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt right now because I feel like they're building to something that is going to make all of my criticisms like a moot point, because right now I just don't like her character just being just as angry and as kind of like quippy one-linery as she is. It feels a little bit like generic, like it feels like the bad stuff about Marvel as opposed to the good stuff about Star Wars. But I feel like all they need to do is like give her a backstory I actually care about. And flesh her out a little bit more that I imagine that they're going to. We're only 2 episodes into this, and she seems to be like the actual main antagonistic force to Obi Wan in this. So I'm excited with what they're doing, but I do think that where we're at right now, I'm kind of like, you feel a little bit generic bad guy, and I want a little bit more from Star Wars when Darth Vader is another villain in this exact series.
See, and I'm all in for Reva. I think Reva's badass. I think she's very, very cool. And I think that they planted the seed enough for me because there were 2 things that were said that were enough to make me go, okay, I understand. I get what's happening here. I don't know what it is yet, and I'm very excited to find out. The first was when she was trying to get to Obi Wan like the first time, and she was like, I will get my revenge or something like that. I don't remember what the exact phrase
is. What she
I am
says.
owed this. Something like that. That there is some kind of personal vendetta that clearly explains why it is Obi-Wan in particular. She doesn't really care about the other Jedi. It's all about Obi-Wan. Yeah. What is it? Was she, I mean, he said that a lot of the people were Jedi that were turned. Is it possible that there is a hostility because he wasn't able to protect her when Order 66 was executed? Maybe she watched a bunch of other kids get slayed, you know?
Because it's not like, you have to assume, like, they understand that Yoda is also still out there. Like, it's not like she's just trying to go for, like, a high-level Jedi because, you know, that's going to get her more, like, honor or whatever. Like, she's specifically after Obi-Wan. And, you know, it's not just that, but it's also, we opened up on a flashback to Order 66. She's 100% one of those kids in that opening scene.
She's one of those kids.
She's one of those kids, and like they talk about like you came to us from the gutters and stuff like that, and like, you know, we helped you, like you showed us your power and stuff like that, and we're giving you the tools to like be this Inquisitor. I 100% think in their turning her into an Inquisitor, because again, this is stuff that they explored in Jedi Fallen Order of like just the really fucked up things they do to Jedi to make them turn. Again, I'm blanking on her name, so I feel like I got to look it up at this point. Jedi Fallen Order character.
You're talking about Seer?
Seer, yeah. When they showed her own Padawan turned into an Inquisitor to also get her to come to the dark side and stuff. Like, they do fucked up things. And so I think in like the process of turning her into an Inquisitor, they like either like, I wonder if she either saw Obi when he returned to the temple to like change the
transmission.
The transmission thing. I wonder if she saw him and she was like, he's here to help other Jedi, right? And like the fact that like him and Yoda left not like trying to look for anybody else, like I wonder if like they're gonna feed into that. Like I'm on the same level of you, Saige, of like they gave me just enough where I'm like, oh, something's there and I'm all in on it. And like even just now knowing as little as we do, just with like how ferocious she is and like just how just the rest of the Inquisitors are even like, bro, you need to chill the fuck out, man. I forget which brother he's playing, but Han from Fast and Furious.
Fifth brother.
He's playing the fifth brother. I just want to say, like, I really liked the other Inquisitors that we've seen so far as well, even though, right, like, Reva is, like, the main antagonist force in this. You know, I really liked Han playing the fifth brother, because he's so, you can see he's like really having fun like being that villain role. And then, you know, I called out in the trailers, I do think the Grand Inquisitor looks a little weird. Again, that's because, you know, there are these characters that were designed to be cartoons and adapting them into real life. It's never gonna feel quite right realistically. But
that's okay. He's dead now.
I will say, well, no, he's not. But I will say, I really liked that actor, and I really liked his portrayal of the Grand Inquisitor. Of like, even though he didn't look quite right, like I really loved his portrayal of it, and like just getting into that role. I really felt that. I want to speak about the Grand Inquisitor because, of course, the knee-jerk reaction I had was like, wait, he's a villain in Rebels. He can't die here. And so the thing that I texted a friend of the show, Jonathan Dornbush, because we were immediately texting after we finished this last night. I texted him. My guess is he's out for the rest of the show. Like Grand Inquisitor, his story is mainly, I would see, like his story is Star Wars Rebels and stuff like that. And so I think they wanted him here just as a reminder of like, hey, he's around. But they're gonna have him knocked out for the kind of the rest of the show, so there's no like real leadership with him out for the rest of the Inquisitors, which kind of requires Vader to like be the guy who comes in like, kid, settle down, Dad is here. Like, even though your Grand Inquisitor dad is, you know, taking a nap for a few episodes, I am here and I'm here to lock shit down. I think the storytelling reason is there, and I'm for it. So.
I love that he said in actuality, just like Obi Wan did the prequels. I don't really have a attachment to how he looked in Rebels. Like, honestly, I don't even really know. So I'm not comparing it that way. I'm just saying he looked goofy in this, and it like kind of took me out of it a little bit. But I'm with you that I loved everything he said. I love what he did, and it won me over by like a minute in, where I'm like, okay, this is how he looks. I can get over it, and it's gonna be okay, you know.
Yeah, I thought his head should have been a little longer, but honestly, I didn't find that he looked too silly. As far as like Star Wars aliens go, I mean, I don't feel like he was a super particularly silly looking alien.
Yeah. One thing that kind of bums me out is that, and this is coming from somebody that hasn't even seen all of the cartoons, but it bums me out that they don't embrace the cartoons as much as they pretend that they do. Like, why didn't the little previously on thing include stuff from Clone Wars? Like, I feel like they totally should have.
I had that same reaction where the moment where I was like, they got to show like Clone Wars stuff, right? Because, you know, they were even saying in there like, hey, like watch order of things to build up to the Kenobi. They were recommending arcs from Clone Wars and stuff like that. I think the reason they avoided it, and again, not that I agree with it, but on like just a business standpoint, trying to grab Star Wars fans, I feel like including even just like animated stuff in the recap, I feel like would have alienated people who are just here for live action stuff, because I think we have to get to the point of like, if you're not in on the cartoon stuff, you're just, I don't know if you're ever going to be. And so I wonder if they saw that as like we could do it, but we want to grab the people who are a little more of like just the movie people. And, you know, like that might alienate them if we, you know, include all this other shit in there. Not saying I agree with it.
No, I know. I get that, but I'm just, in my opinion, it's like, well, then you need to make different live action shows that don't reference the cartoons every other second, because at this point, that's what that is. And it's like, just embrace it. Just like treat that stuff as if it is just as important, because you're telling us it is just as important. And like, nobody that, like all the prequel haters, they look at it and they're like, Hayden Christensen sucked. You know, they don't look at it as like, oh, him and Ewan McGregor had a great relationship. But anyone that watched Clone Wars is like, no, y'all don't fucking get it. Show us that. Like, let's get into that more, because that's what I'm imagining we're going to get for the rest of the show based on what they've given us so far. But so I'm just saying, I'm just bummed out that they're not like committing as hard as they should, because they have really great stuff. And I also did think it was really funny that he has the flashback dream where he's like having a nightmare, and it's like the prequels were a nightmare.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I love in that moment, because this was something we also theorized about in the trailer reactions of like, and just in like other stuff of like, once Qui-Gon popping up.
Oh, he's coming, baby.
Oh, he's coming.
100%.
The fact that he like woke up and then he's like calling out to Qui-Gon and no response.
It makes me think that he's been doing that for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, you think this has been his nightmares for 10 years, and every night he wakes up and he calls out to Qui-Gon?
Daddy Qui-Gon? Yes.
And it's so sad. It's so sad. I predict he's coming. We're going to get Qui-Gon in a kind of like get your shit together kind of scene at the end of episode 5 leading into the finale.
Yeah.
See, and I love it. Like, I feel like they set up a low enough stakes story that we're just invested in, that we know there are certain plot points that we're going to have to get to, like
It's more
him and Vader.
driven.
And it's more character driven. And I'm like, yo, they're delivering on it. I do think that that's going to lead us to a couple silly things where it's like Leia being on this grand of an adventure so soon. But again, that's what Star Wars is. And if you just need to understand everything is connected. Everyone has met each other 10 billion times before.
Right.
So as long as they're meeting each other, doing cool things, I'm going to be okay with it. And I'm really digging the relationship between Leia and Obi Wan. And I just love that we're now in this very unique position where it is equidistant, essentially, between like the New Hope people we know and the prequels. So getting this kind of like crossover bit is like, sure, does every question need to be answered? No. But if they answer those questions in a fun way, I'm all in. And so far, they've been knocking that out of the park for me.
And I don't mind her being on a grand adventure, because nothing about who she is in A New Hope would imply that she hasn't seen some shit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the absolute chutzpah that it takes to be, just jumping onto Empire ships, and the, like, quick ability to jump out and tell the lies, and she had it so unlocked. I'm like, she's been doing this.
Yeah.
I'm very, very comfortable with that. I think it sets up beautifully how Leia ended up who she is. When it's like, you're telling me a princess just jumped onto this, like, Imperial ship? No, absolutely not.
No.
No way. No way. Yes.
I want to just go back again, talking about Ewan, how great he is. And just like how they're depicting Obi right now in this era, like it really is reminiscent of like not so much in the game, but like more in like the trailers leading up to Jedi Fallen Order, of like the kind of like mindset that Cal Kestis was in, of just like you're there to survive, like blend in all of this stuff, and like how much Obi is also like adapted that, because he thinks, this mission of protecting Luke only is more important than anything. And just like Jimmy Smits had to go to Tatooine to like be like, yo, shit is bad. She is just as important as he is. That was our understanding when we left. And like to kind of slap him, to be like, dude, you are fucking lost. And like he even says, like, find someone else, she'll be better off. I'm not who I used to be, and stuff like that. Like Leia, the other child, getting kidnapped at first was not enough for Obi to be like, all right, I'll go do the thing. Like Jimmy Smits had to be there and be like, wake up, please, for the love of fucking Christ. And I love how that's slowly coming back. Him protecting Luke, but really not fully having Luke in his life. And not on purpose or whatever, not, but like, not by any of like his kind of I forget the word that I'm trying to say here. Not on purpose. Best word I can think of. Sorry, I'm really out of it.
It's okay.
But now being able to be part of Leia's life in a very like a happenstance kind of way, it's one of those like he's starting to like reawaken to like what this was all for. Which I really am excited to see, of like how that is fought off, or like how that's balanced between of like what he's fighting for, and then like the realistic of like what he's fighting against, and like how much fear he's gonna have in either protecting that or actually fighting against his friend who is still alive and is still the Sith Lord, versus protecting his children. I just popping up in my notes, I just love that I've written down Obi sneaks through a space meth lab, because that was also that was great, and him using the spice to like throw down and run away from Flea was fucking fantastic. That was a whole great sequence there.
Another thing I really liked about these episodes so far was kind of seeing a different side of Star Wars, which is kind of just the more day-to-day, just normal life that we haven't had too much of in the live action stuff, at least. But there was two examples that I thought they did a really good job of. One is Obi-Wan just working at this really shitty job, and like it is just this slow moving,
him
just like
sneaking his little fish every day, his little sand fish.
Like it's just so like, damn, that's where you're at, Obi. Okay. But then just the line on Alderaan of, oh, you'll have to change in the speeder. like it's just such a mom thing, like of her saying that to Leia, of like acting like, oh yeah, you'll change the car, don't worry. Like I love that because it humanizes this thing that to us is so often having to deal with the Force and all this crazy stuff or all the politics. But it's like, yo, people just kind of live their lives too.
And her cousin, I know that they like
Shit.
set that up too to be like, you know, hey, she's aware that she was adopted, which is very interesting because we don't see a lot of that like confirmation anywhere else in the story.
Right.
And I know that's what that was for, but it was also one of those things where it was just like a kind of human interaction between a couple of kids and that cousin being a jerk that's like probably not important at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just went 36 minutes. We haven't talked about Kumail.
We gotta talk about Kumail.
Let's go.
I loved the bait because again, like from the trailer, I was like, "Oh, he's a Jedi," and then they like do that. They set that up, and I love the the second he's on screen, and it's like the second he starts talking, I was like, "Something's up, something's wrong here," and I love that like Obi he doesn't feed into it. He's just like immediately like, "Oh, I sense magnet, bitch. Like, who do you think you are trying to like profit off of this, you asshole?" And
that was so good.
It's so good. He's
Kumail knocked that role out.
He plays such a charming asshole so well, and I love it. And I love like the little bit, even another like weird thing where I was like, he kind of does the 180 where he's like, you know what, I'm actually gonna help you out, even though the last scene we saw me in, I was gonna hunt you down and stuff like that. But I still loved the kind of like I'll hold them off kind of stuff. And the third sister, just kind of like walks through him like fucking nothing, and it's just like, that was so good.
I felt like that was pretty earned, actually. And I thought about this for a minute because I was like, that is a quick turnaround. When I understand he's like, we're going to get to them first. I'm willing to justify that he was lying to that kid 100%. That dude's always lying. For me, what it was, the thing that justified it was that they clearly set up that he was a Jedi fanboy. He does this because, damn, would he love to be a real Jedi.
That's true.
And he's a scam artist, and he's a little rat instead because that's who he is. But, like, I think he does it from a place of thinking Jedi are that freaking cool. And the idea of seeing one himself in person when there's been, nothing from the Jedi for 10 years at this point. I completely get that flip. And I think it was just well played enough that I was all there.
I'm down for that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I love him as a Jedi fanboy.
No, it's great. And he's perfect for that. Oh my God. One of the craziest things in one of the fight scenes in the alley, one of the dudes that was fighting is this dude Gak Attack, who we made videos with back at IGN, and it was like a homie of ours for a long time that we hung out at VidCon. So Gak Attack, shout out for you.
Was that the bounty hunter where he knocks out and he kind of like takes the comm from, or was that someone else?
That was someone else. It was the one. It was one of the spice people in the spice fight. Where he threw the spice down.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was like, holy shit, that's freaking crazy. I haven't seen you in like 10 years. But
that is so cool.
Yeah.
I also feel like we got to go back to the beginning and we got to talk about that first Jedi.
Yeah.
That incredible fight scene. That was phenomenal.
That was awesome.
Like lightsaber choreography wise, that heads towards the very, very top of my list.
100%.
That was so cool. And it was hopeless in a way that was really interesting, and the desperation in it, and it just being her. And I kept being like, other people are going to show up to help, right? Other people are going to show up to help, right? And no one comes.
I know.
Oh
the
my
way she just
God.
falls at the end too, after just one blast to the
Protects
chest.
them first and
know.
then falls.
It's so fucking heartbreaking. But yeah, that was such a perfect balance of like, we talk a little bit about the prequel kind of choreography being a little too showy, planned out and very showy and stuff. And that opening scene was such a perfect balance of like what they were trying to go for in the prequels, and then also just like the natural kind of nature of like how those fights went in like the original trilogy and stuff like that. Like it was so well done. I absolutely loved it, and it felt like Tim. Was that all one shot too? It felt like just like one kind of like panning and stuff like that. I love stuff like that. I love action scenes. It's like almost a trope at this point when they do stuff like that. But it is that was so fucking cool.
It was awesome, and you know, I said this last week, but Order 66 is like one of the most iconic moments in movie history, and anytime we get it from a different perspective, it's so damn cool. This is not an exception to that. It hit really hard. But another thing that I love about Star Wars is when they kind of like question decisions that were made from the past and kind of recontextualize certain elements and kind of bring out the wars side of it all. Like in Last Jedi, we saw a little bit about this with the idea of who's paying for like all that stuff. It's like it's all the same shit, you know. But having the like the veteran clone soldier, like the like down and out,
homeless, it was like clone trooper, and that someone pointed out, I think on Twitter, had the 501st like armor and stuff like that. Like that was so.
You think he recognized Obi-Wan?
Well, that's what someone was like, because he was part of the 50. Apparently, again, this was just something I saw really quick on Twitter of like pointing out of like, it seems like the 501st like specific like kind of like a paint job or whatever they do to like kind of show that. And because of that, there's like a very good chance that like he did recognize Obi-Wan because that was his general's best friend, you know, and that was just like so fucking heartbreaking. But I love that it didn't say too much, you know, like that was just like a moment because I was wondering of like, is this gonna be like a weird thing where like this is like Rex in his like weird like homeless years for a bit before we find him on a sand planet in Rebels and stuff like that, or what are they doing here? And I just love that kind of like for Obi-Wan as well of like this weird, this is the face of like many friends that I've had for years, but then also the face of like what caused the like destruction of my people kind of thing. And that was also great acting from Ewan in that moment. I adored it.
Any other standouts for you, Saige?
Oh my God. So many things throughout this. I thought it was really interesting. The only question that I found myself not being able to justify was Reva being able to pull that information from Kumail Nanjiani's character and then not being able to, or at least not exercising that throughout the rest of the show. That's a big power to give her that I'm very intrigued by.
My thoughts on it, if you're talking about when she was kind of fucking with Uncle Owen, right?
I'm talking about, I mean, when she was fucking with Uncle Owen, she could have easily pulled that information about Obi-Wan from Uncle Owen.
Totally, but my thing there is I don't think there's a couple lines of dialogues and setup in these episodes that kind of because we know Star Wars, are expecting it is going one direction, but I think that if you are like trying to understand, what story are they telling, it's a little bit different. I think this is an example of it. And I think later, when there's a line where they're talking about, I was fighting with your father or whatever, and we think, Anakin is Leia's father, but they're talking about Jimmy Smits, right? And I feel like it's those type of like double entendre, almost like things that like, it actually works multiple ways. I think that the setup with the with Uncle Owen, we're looking at it like, oh shit, she knows that this guy knows about the Jedi, but that's just because we know that he does. I don't think she knows that. So I think it was more a threat to the public of who does know, I'm going to find out, as opposed to this guy knows, so I'm going to read his mind. I think she could have, but she wasn't motivated to because she had no idea he would know. Yeah. Although it is kind of weird though, because she can kind of just sense Obi-Wan later and like figure out that when he feels about Vader or whatever, but maybe that's
also after he reattached himself to the Force.
That's what I was thinking.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep. That's cool as fuck.
I think that he's been so hard to track for the last 10 years for that exact reason. He has completely shut himself off from the Force. And I think that's what he's recommending to that young Jedi as well, is like, literally, this is how I'm staying alive. If I help you, we're all going to die. Yeah. I mean, we have to talk about that too, obviously. Him being like publicly strewn up over Tatooine in front of everybody was heartbreaking. And you get into this position of, I appreciate them showing these flaws of Obi-Wan, where it's like, he's not currently a good, strong man that like we know Obi-Wan to be. He's not a great person right now because of everything that he's been through.
The one of the lore things that was also set up in Last Jedi too is that Luke also cut himself off from the Force, and when like Rey first like feels the island and stuff, she doesn't feel Luke, and so that's definitely lines up with like Obi-Wan and her not being able to sense that and stuff like that. Like he completely cut himself off, which again, heartbreaking.
So dope. Do we think that Reva is one of the reasons that she is going after Obi-Wan in particular, is that she's trying to like show off to Vader? Like, is Vader aware of Obi-Wan and like specifically trying to hunt him down? And she's like, he wants Obi-Wan. I'm going to get him because I am an A+ student.
Partially, yes, because of the line between the Grand Inquisitor and Reva when they're standing in that warehouse and like the freighter ship dock. He says to her like something like about, this isn't going to get you something special. Like you have to let this go.
Yeah, I want the credit. Kind of
right.
thing.
And she was like, I'm not going to let you take the credit for this. I do think that she has something specific that she's trying to prove. And my headcanon for it right now is Obi-Wan did not help her. Maybe she was grievously injured. Maybe she was in danger. Maybe she was just left completely orphaned by Order 66. And it was personally Anakin that pulled her out of it in some capacity. We can help you. Clearly the Jedi didn't. Look, the Jedi abandoned you. They left you there. They weren't strong enough to protect you.
This guy came back and then left with nobody. He didn't even try to look for you, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing is he never did go out looking for anybody, which is really difficult. And that's that thing that calls this like weird moral thing for Obi-Wan and where he's at. And when you see, what is that young Jedi's name that approaches him? Because they don't ever like name him in the episode. Just Benny Safdie.
He introduces himself when he shows up, but it's such a quick line.
Yeah, I wrote it down somewhere, but
while you're looking for that, I just want to shout out Obi calling Leia princess and her responding, I'm just Leia. Fucking, it's poetry.
Oh, and also,
it's poetry.
being called Your Highness for the first time. I was like, I love that.
That's so good. And I love that she's never liked it. Even as a kid, it was like, don't call me princess. Like,
and then the last thing I do wonder of like
Nari.
Nari. Gotcha.
Nari.
That's who Benny Safdie plays. I do have the question going into next week of like who are Kumail's friends that is helping them get off this planet and stuff like that. That felt like a question of like, who do you have that's like helping us and stuff like that. So I wonder like what that's gonna lead to in these next couple of episodes. I think like the very easy answer people will probably go to is them setting up Ahsoka. I'm not quite certain about that personally, and that again. I would have to go back to Rebels to specifically find the moment. But I don't know if by the time Rebels begins, Ahsoka is fully aware that Vader is Anakin. I think she understands that there's a presence above the Inquisitors, but I don't know if she fully understands that that's Anakin until a certain moment in Rebels. And if that's her helping Obi-Wan out, I highly doubt they don't have a conversation about Obi being like, hey, your big bro is still alive, and he's this evil guy right now. And so I don't know if it's. I don't think it's going to be her. I don't. At this point, I don't think she's. Yeah, I hope it isn't.
Yeah,
I hope it isn't because we've gotten her set up. Like we got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're launching off into a show and we got her set up.
I would love a live action Obi Ahsoka scene, but honestly, like I think for this story and like where they're at, I don't personally need it right now.
No, I totally get that, and I also don't think Ahsoka would be friends necessarily with Kumail Nanjiani's like little rat character.
Yeah.
If he knew a Jedi, I don't think that this would have had the effect on him that it had when he saw the hope of a Jedi being alive. Like he recognized the hope when God, there's that like young woman that approaches Obi-Wan and is like, I was someone's daughter once. Oh my God. That tells us everything you need to know about Dayu at that point. And it's like, he's this little rat on Dayu that saw hope for the first time, maybe in his whole life.
Yeah. Going back to Reva real quick, another sign that like is we're all on the same page, and I hope that they pull off the story well of like explaining this, but like she clearly was a Jedi before. And I think that, like evidence of that, like for sure, is the fact that she says Anakin Skywalker is still alive.
I'm pretty sure like all Inquisitors were former Jedi. Like even the Grand Inquisitor was a protector of like the library at the Jedi Temple and stuff like that. Like they were all part of that organization at one point.
And they made a point for Obi-Wan to say most of them were Jedi that were turned.
And so I think it's more of just like a question of like she's got to be one of those kids from that opening scene.
Because that's the thing is like you got to imagine I don't know how available the knowledge is that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader, right? Because like to the Empire, it's Darth Vader. So it would have to be people that knew him when he was Anakin.
It's the inner.
It has to just be
circle.
the inner. Yeah, is it just the Inquisitors? Like that's kind of
Agreed.
interesting.
Yeah,
and I wonder if all of them
usually in
even
other
know.
media, like other people who aren't like Inquisitors or the Emperor, like they describe Vader as like this unknown, absolutely terrifying entity. So yeah, like that information is definitely not out there in the organization of the Empire for sure. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else left to say other than I fucking adore this so far. I hope that it continues to kick ass like it has in these first 2 episodes. And yeah, I'm excited to see the rest, but I'm also sad that it's already like a month away from it being over.
I'm also in that. I'm just like, wait, 6? Only 6? So I did pull up the first scene of the Jedi kids, and there is a little girl that looks like her with the
There we
same
go.
ponytail down her back,
Awesome.
that like short length ponytail braided.
Okay.
go.
That's clearly her.
Yeah, I'm right there with y'all. So excited. Can't wait for next week. One thing that I really love about this is how much it feels like a comic book Star Wars story come to life. And I mean that in the good ways. Like this feels like a substantial story that is
It feels
that has
like
a purpose.
the Charles Soule Vader run in a way.
Yeah,
just
totally.
Yeah.
Which is cool as hell.
Like, ways that they kind of do like a checkbox of like kind of like what realistically is going to happen that you can kind of predict, but also contextualizing those things in ways that you didn't expect and how that makes it exciting, how it makes it feel earned. Really cool stuff. The one revelation that I did have while talking about like what kind of friend would Kumail have that helps him get off this planet? If we get my boy Dex, Obi-Wan's very good.
Oh my god.
Obi-Wan's very good restaurant friend who knows all of these shady things and could like point him to like a dart that gets him to Camino and stuff like that. If we see my boy Dex next episode, I'm gonna lose my fucking shit.
That's not a bad possibility. Like that's not a bad theory.
I love
Very
it, dude.
interesting. I think
I
that's
love
very interesting. My final hot take on this is I enjoyed these first 2 episodes more than I have enjoyed in any episode of any other Star Wars television.
Wow.
I agree.
Yeah. And
I
I love
do not.
Mando. I love Mando, but like this is Star Wars for me. Mando's a cool story set in the Star Wars universe. I watched this and I was like, this is a Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, they
and the
presented
effect that
that
has
way.
on me is different.
Yeah.
And this is by far, I think, leaps and bounds above Mando for me, and just what I'm particularly looking for, which is a Star Wars story.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. For me, it's a high tier, but I think that these 2 so far would be the top 10. And there hasn't been that many, but
Yeah.
they're probably even top 5. But I'm excited for more, and I'm hoping that like that we have some bangers coming up, and I imagine that we do. But every week we're going to be returning with some variation of this crew and Anthony Carboni. Hopefully it'll be the 4 of us every week, but with scheduling and stuff, who knows? Thank you all for hanging out. Saige, where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at Not Saige. I am a streamer on my channel as well as on the Pixel Circus channel, and usually around on Smosh Games.
Hell yeah. And I just want to end on this. Y'all, at some point, that lightsaber is going to ignite. You know what I mean? Let's fucking go!
I'm so excited. The way he stared at it, thinking about it while Reva was on the other side and didn't do it.
Love you all. Bye.